March 31st, 2026, 6 a.m. Eastern. 30,000 people woke up to an email. Same email. Same sender. Same 6 words. Today is your last working day. No phone call, no meeting with their manager, no warning of any kind. Just a message from Oracle leadership and a DocuSign link to their severance paperwork. By the time most of them had poured their first cup of coffee, their Slack was disabled, their VPN was revoked, and their badge no longer opened the door. Oracle, the company that posted $6.13 billion in net income that same quarter, a 95% increase, $523 billion in contracted future revenue, record profits, record backlog, and 30,000 people erased from the payroll before sunrise. If you're a knowledge worker right now, an engineer, a project manager, a director, an operations lead, anyone earning 6 figures inside someone else's company, take 4 minutes and find out what your expertise is actually worth outside of that company. Create your free professional pivot profile. The link is below this video. Because this story isn't about Oracle. This story is about Jake. Jake is a senior director at a Fortune 500 tech company. Not Oracle. A company like Oracle. The kind of company that has all-hands meetings every quarter and says the same things every time. Exciting changes. Strategic realignment. Investing in the future. Jake had been through 4 reorgs in 11 years. He knew the playbook, the corporate language, the reassuring town halls, the nothing changes for your team follow-up emails. He could set his watch by the cycle. Q1 restructuring announcement. Q2 dust settles. Q3 everyone pretends it didn't happen. Q4 the company hits its numbers and leadership takes a victory lap. But this meeting was different. The CFO was on the call. And when the CFO joins an all-hands, something has already been decided. Jake noticed it before anyone said a word. The VP of engineering had her camera off. The head of HR was on mute with a slide deck queued. And the language wasn't the usual exciting changes ahead boilerplate. It was precise, practiced, legal. Broader organizational change. Streamlining operations to accelerate our AI-first strategy. Difficult but necessary decisions. Jake had heard these words before, but he'd heard them on CNBC, about other companies, about Oracle, about the 30,000. Now he was hearing them inside his own building, from his own leadership, about his own division. The meeting lasted 11 minutes. 11 minutes to restructure an entire division. Jake's VP signed off with, "We appreciate your patience and your commitment," which is corporate for, "This conversation is over, and you will not be asking follow-up questions." By Thursday, Jake's inbox told the rest of the story. 3 of his direct reports, people he had hired, trained, and promoted, received their notifications. Not by email at 6 a.m. His company was more civilized than that. They got calendar invites, 15 minutes each, with HR titled Transition Discussion. 3 people, a 12-year systems architect, a senior project manager who had just delivered the company's largest client migration, and a data analytics lead who had been promoted 7 months earlier. Gone. All 3. In a single afternoon. And here's what Jake noticed. Here's the detail that kept him up that night. The work didn't stop. The projects those 3 people were running didn't get reassigned to other senior staff. They got reassigned to a platform, an AI workflow tool the company had been piloting for 6 months. 2 junior coordinators were brought in at roughly 40% of the salary to manage the output the AI was now generating. The company didn't replace Jake's people with cheaper people. The company replaced Jake's people with software. and then hired cheaper people to babysit the software. Let's pause on that, because this is where the Oracle story becomes your story. Oracle didn't fire 30,000 people because the company was in trouble. Read the earnings report. $6 billion in profit, $523 billion in contracted revenue. They're not struggling. They're not restructuring out of desperation. They're running math. TD Cowen, the investment bank that predicted these cuts months in advance, estimated that eliminating 30,000 positions frees up $8 to $10 billion in annual cash flow. Where does that cash go? Directly into AI data centers. Oracle committed to $156 billion in AI infrastructure spending. They took on $58 billion in new debt in 2 months. They needed the money, and your salary was in the way. This is not a recession story. This is not a tech bubble bursting story. This is a profitable company making a capital trade, human expertise out, AI infrastructure in. Your years of experience converted into a line item, subtracted from a spreadsheet, and redirected into a GPU cluster in a data center you'll never see. And here's what makes this a template and not an incident. Amazon cut 16,000 jobs in January 2026. Meta cut hundreds in the same quarter. Every major tech company is running the same analysis TD Cowen published. How much cash flow can we free up by replacing experienced headcount with AI-augmented junior talent? The answer across the Fortune 500 is trillions. In 1981, Ronald Reagan fired 11,000 striking air traffic controllers. It wasn't just a labor dispute, it was a signal. It told every corporation in America that the rules had changed, that organized labor could be broken, that employers held the leverage, and that no worker, no matter how essential, was irreplaceable. Union membership dropped from 20% to 6% over the next 4 decades. Not because of one event, because Reagan created the template and every company followed it. Oracle's March 31st email is the same kind of signal. Not because it was the biggest layoff in tech history, although it may have been, because of what it proved. A company can post record profits, fire 18% of its workforce by email before dawn, redirect the savings into machines, and the stock market doesn't flinch. The board doesn't intervene. The customers don't leave. The template works. And once a template works, it spreads. Every Fortune 500 CEO watched Oracle's March 31st. Every CFO downloaded the TD Cowen report. Every board of directors asked the same question: what does our version of this look like? Your company is answering that question right now, whether you see the meeting or not. Jake saw it. Not because he was laid off. He wasn't. He survived this round. And that's what made it worse. Because surviving a round isn't the same as being safe. It's the same as being next. Jake sat at his kitchen table that night, the same table where he'd answered work emails for 11 years. And he did something he'd never done before. He opened his company's earnings report, not the press release, the actual filing. And he did the math. His fully loaded cost, salary, benefits, equity, overhead, was roughly $280,000 a year. The AI platform his company just deployed could replicate roughly 60% of the analytical work his team used to do. 2 junior operators at $85,000 each could manage the rest. Total replacement cost, approximately $230,000, with no equity vest, no benefits cliff, and no 11-year tenure to navigate around during the next restructuring. The math wasn't complicated. The math was obvious. And once Jake could see it, he couldn't unsee it. His title didn't change the math. His performance reviews didn't change the math. His 11 years of institutional knowledge didn't change the math. The math is the math. And the math says, Experienced headcount is the most expensive line item on the P&L, and AI just made it optional. So what do you do when you realize the structure you built your career inside is being disassembled? Not because it failed, but because the economics shifted. You don't panic. You don't rage quit. You don't post a LinkedIn manifesto about corporate greed. You build. Jake has a window. You have a window. 24 months. Maybe less. That's the window where you're still employed, still have your network, still have your credibility, still have access to the problems you solve, and the industry you know. 24 months to start extracting what you know and packaging it into something portable. Something that doesn't live on someone else's server. Something the next all-hands meeting can't touch. Not a side hustle. Not a backup plan. A parallel structure. Intellectual property with your name on it. Consulting frameworks built from your expertise. A professional brand that generates income whether you're on a payroll or not. This isn't about leaving your job. It's about making sure your job isn't the only thing between you and an income. I'm hosting a free live session for knowledge workers who watch this and realize the next all-hands meeting might be about them. No pitch, no pressure, just a room full of professionals who'd rather build now than react later. Registration link is in the description. Jake opened a blank document that night. Not a resume. Not a LinkedIn update. A framework. The first page of something that belongs to him. Something Oracle can't email away at 6 a.m. Because Oracle didn't create a crisis. Oracle created a template, and every company you've ever worked for now has access to it. The question isn't whether your company will run the same math. It's whether you'll still be inside their spreadsheet when they do.